Today, we're diving into a really fascinating and, honestly, pretty wild story about how international relations can sometimes take the most unexpected turns. Have you ever seen someone get totally pushed out of a friend group only to immediately find a new, even stronger one? Well, that's essentially what happened with Venezuela on the global stage, and guess who did the pushing? The United States. Think back to the early 2000s. Hugo Chavez was in power in Venezuela, and let's just say he wasn't exactly Washington's favorite person. He was a real thorn in their side. But despite the tension, Venezuela was still, for the most part, playing in the same global sandbox as everyone else. We were buying their oil, they were buying our goods. It was a strained relationship, yes, but it was still a relationship. There was an open channel. Then things started to escalate. The pressure from the U.S. began to ramp up, slowly but surely. First, it was just diplomatic finger-wagging, stern warnings and strongly worded statements. Then it moved to targeted sanctions, focusing on specific officials. But the big hammer eventually dropped, a full-on financial embargo. This move effectively locked Venezuela out of the entire Western banking system. Imagine being completely frozen out, unable to access your funds or participate in normal economic activities. It was the geopolitical equivalent of being kicked out of the popular kids' table in the cafeteria, with absolutely nowhere to sit. So, what did Venezuela do? Did they crumble? Did they beg to be let back in? Nope. They walked straight over to the other table, the one where Russia and China were already sitting. And let me tell you, Russia and China were more than happy to scoot over and make room. For them, this was an incredible, strategic opportunity. For China, it was a masterstroke of geopolitics. They stepped in as Venezuela's lender of last resort, pouring over $60 billion in loans into the country. But don't misunderstand, this wasn't charity. This was a secured investment, a very smart business move. The collateral? Venezuela's absolutely immense oil reserves. China was essentially using its cash to lock down future energy supplies, securing a massive foothold, and strategic influence right in what many consider America's backyard, all without firing a single shot. It's brilliant from their perspective. And for Russia, it was all about leverage and loyalty. When almost no one else would touch Venezuelan crude, the Russian state oil company Rosneft swooped in to trade it, providing a crucial lifeline that kept Venezuela afloat. They also sent in military advisors, sold arms, and generally propped up the Venezuelan regime. Why? Because every bit of chaos, every new anti-American alliance in the Western Hemisphere is a win for Moscow. It distracts the U.S. and forces them to deal with problems much closer to home, diverting attention and resources. Now, here's where the brutal irony of the U.S. maximum pressure campaign really hits home. The entire goal was to topple the Venezuelan regime, right? Well, it didn't do that. Instead, it accomplished two things it never, ever intended. First, it made Venezuela utterly dependent on two of America's biggest strategic rivals. The U.S. wanted to isolate Caracas, to make them a pariah. But instead, it effectively forced them directly into the arms of Moscow and Beijing, giving these powerful nations a permanent, energy-rich client state right on our doorstep. Talk about unintended consequences. Second, it handed Russia and China a powerful propaganda tool. They could proudly pose as the reliable partners, the ones who wouldn't use the global financial system as a weapon, the ones who would stand by their allies when the West turned its back. This narrative resonates powerfully with many nations across the globe. So, the next time you see a headline about Venezuela cozying up with Russia or China, just remember, that wasn't their first choice. It wasn't even their second or third. It was, in many ways, their only choice. After the door to the West was slammed shut and bolted locked. We pushed, and they fell right into the waiting arms of our competitors. It's a classic case of unintended consequences, with the map of global alliances permanently redrawn in a way that wasn't anticipated. It really makes you think about the ripple effects of global policies, doesn't it? What are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this video insightful, please hit that like button, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into complex global issues. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.